So good afternoon and welcome to Etihad Cargo Connections. I'm your host, Ron Anderson, and today I'm joined by trainer Matt De Kock. Welcome, Matt, and thank you so much for joining us, mate. How are we today?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show.
No dramas at all. So we'll just start at the beginning. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
Yeah, I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa. I grew up there. Very fortunate to be the son of the world famous trainer Mathew De Kock, and my mom Diane De Kock, who's a very good horseman in her own right. So I grew up there, finished school in Johannesburg, South Africa, and then was able to travel around the world with my dad.
And as you said, your dad is Mike De Kock himself, legendary South African trainer, has trained superstars like Horse Chestnut, won races all over the world, UK, US, Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore, and so many other places. Continues to dominate at home in South Africa as well. How much did the influence of what he did as a career, as well as your mother as a horseman, as you said, influence yourself in following in their footsteps?
Yeah, it obviously was a major influence because it provided me with the opportunity and platform to join the racing career, just with regards to them having success and working in the industry. But with regards to my love and passion towards racing, that was a self-inflicted thing, so to speak. When I left school, I decided to work for my mom and dad, and the bug bit me. So it was no pressure from them, but obviously them being in the industry just provided me with the opportunity to join the industry.
And you said the bug bit you. At what age really was that when it really struck in and you realize, hey, my parents have done this for so long and the influence and, passion is there from them seeing what they do as a career. But when did it bite yourself, as you said, and self-inflict in terms of, understanding and knowing well right in your own right that you wanted to do this and pursue this as a career?
I always had the passion growing up, following the racing and watching my dad's runners on the weekends as a young kid. But it truly bit me once I started working in the yard when I was 18 years old. I think the very first day I stepped into the yard, I knew that this is what I wanted to do.
And what was it about horses specifically that got you passionate?
Well, I'm an animal lover, and so to work with horses is an honor, and I feel lucky to do that every day because I do genuinely love animals, and specifically I love horses. But that's one of my passions. My other passions is fitness and training. So if I probably wasn't going to be a horse trainer, I would have been some sort of human fitness trainer, whether it be on a sports team or a golf coach or something like that. I think I probably would have ended up doing something like that. So the fact that I got to marry the two together, I feel very lucky.
And what age was it when you realized, hey, this is what I really want to do in terms of pursuing a career in horse training?
It was when I was 18. I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to work for my mom and dad, and that involved traveling over to Dubai. And I was very lucky early on in my life. I got to work with some very good horses and have a lot of success with the team. And I guess that really cemented my dreams and my hopes to one day be able to do that for myself.
And we'll just go back to something you said a moment ago, just about the personal training and fitness side of things. Is it correct you were looking and really thinking about pursuing a career as a professional golfer?
Yes, towards the end of my schooling career, I dedicated my life towards golf, and I became pretty successful as a young person in South Africa, and built up a nice CV and applied for a golf scholarship to America, and I got a scholarship to a university in Iowa. So when I finished school in December in South Africa, I had 9 months free before the university in America started, and that's when I said, "All right, I'm going to go and work for my mom and dad to earn some extra money between in the time frame." And then that's when the bug bit me to say, and I decided said to my mom and dad, "I'm going to be wasting your money if I go and study in America because I really want to be a horse trainer." So now I get the beauty of going to work with horses, and then if I have a free afternoon, I can go and play golf as well. So I get to do both now, which is great.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you still get out? Yeah, that's a really cool story. That's really cool. And you said you went to work for your parents. From there, in the initial stages of your career, where did you go? And in the end, what were your biggest influences outside of your parents in terms of horse training and the industry?
Yeah, so I was very lucky. Joined my mom first and learned all the basics. My mom does all the breaking in for my dad, so I joined her first, and then got the feel for it. And my old man said to me, "Oh, why don't you come with me to Dubai for 3 months for the season, January, February, March?" So I went with him, and he just stuck me in the feed room. I got to feed the animals. My dad always said to me, "The engine room of a stable is the feed room." So you learn how to feed them. So I was there for 3 months with him. And then when I came back to Johannesburg, this is all happening in my first year of working for my mom and dad. In South Africa, we shift our horses from place to place. We follow the weather and the seasons and the racing program. And my dad left me in the bee barns, but so to speak, in the winter in Johannesburg. And he said to me, "Right, you run these 25 horses like you're training them, and you phone me every day and tell me what you're doing with them, why you're doing it, etc., etc." So it was a good opportunity for me, and it helped me really learn or fast track my learning because I was responsible for these 25 horses for the winter period. And amazingly enough, in those 25 horses was an unraced horse called Igugu, which ended up racing in Dubai. She was a superstar racehorse. So she also fast tracked my learning because in my first year working for my dad, I got to work with such a special racehorse. So she is a big influence on my life, and really, taught me a lot. So sometimes it's not the people in the industry that are big influences; it's also the horses and the success that you have. So my mom and dad, obviously big influences, and the people they employed, being such a great team, successful team, you often find that there are successful people working for you with be vets and jockeys, admin staff, whatever it is. So been lucky that there's been a lot of influences, horses and people.
Yeah, and it's an insane story. As you said, in your first year, you have those 25 horses to work with. And then in that crop of horses, there's just that one horse that really helps you. I mean, it would have been a case of being put in the deep end initially anyway in your
Yeah.
first year, let alone having that horse that did go on to really spurn on your career and really, was kind of a diamond in the rough. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's funny, like I used to lose sleep at night over a 10 start maiden going to the races the next day because it meant so much to me because I was responsible for that horse's performance. So I'll put everything into it. That 10 start maiden was like a group one runner going to the races the next day, but I was very lucky, like you say, to get a filly like Gugu in my first year
Yeah.
working for my dad. And I can remember ringing him up one morning before she ran in her first race. And I said to my dad, "I think you got a superstar here."
Yeah.
And then he said to me, he used some choice words which probably not won't go down well on
Yeah.
this program. But basically, what he said to me was that I'd been in the game for 5 minutes and I didn't know anything. But
Yeah.
anyway, she just stood out like a sore thumb. She was a superior athlete, and yeah, it was just a great learning experience.
And from there, what brought you down here to Australia?
Yeah, well, if I backtrack a little bit, I was very lucky to keep going back and forth to Dubai, spending seasons out there. I traveled to Newmarket, England, worked there for 6 months, a little bit in America. So I was very lucky to see the world. I came over to the Australian yearling sales with my dad and the team buying yearlings for South Africa. So I had a broad knowledge of racing all around the world. And unfortunately, we had a little bit of unrest in our staff in South Africa. And that's kind of pushed me over the edge to say, let me look elsewhere and see if there's an opportunity. If I can travel and try and set up somewhere else. If it's not successful, I can always come back home. Australia was stuck out to us because the racing is very similar to South Africa,
Hmm.
and we have a lot of connections through buying horses at the sales year in and year out. So we moved over just before COVID, March 2020.
Yeah. And from there, as you said, you had so many connections here. The story's been told so often about yourself and Robbie. Can you just retell us how you two met? Is it correct
Yeah.
that you asked someone who the best person to learn from was, and Robbie's name was thrown into the conversation?
Yeah, so what happened was myself and my dad came and did a little bit of a tour of Victoria and New South Wales training facilities. We identified Cranbourne as the best place to potentially set up a yard. And Neil Bainbridge is the CEO of Cranbourne. We asked him, I wanted to learn from a trainer first before I set up there, just to get the lay of the land. And he suggested we learn from Robbie Griffiths. He thought Robbie was the best person to learn for in Cranbourne. He's been training there for 30 years with a lot of success. He's the president of the Australian Trainers Association. So March 2020, I started working for Robbie. And after 6 months, Robbie saw the potential in me and the potential in us joining. And he sat me down one evening and suggested that we go into a training partnership. And I took that as a feather in my cap, and I agreed with him that it was a better way to go about things. And we signed the papers in October 2020.
And as you said, March next month, coming up 3 years in Australia, partnership's gone on to saddle over 1,500 winners, over 50 million in prize money. To say the partnership, as you said, is successful, is a successful one would be, an understatement. What do you like about the training partnership? And when looking back on it, how far do you see your progression in Australia, let alone your career, as a result of teaming up with Robbie?
Yeah, it was a major springboard for me, an opportunity for me, because I stepped into a business that had been around for 30 years. I didn't have to buy a saddle or a bridle. And so it was a fantastic opportunity. I got to join the business with a big network of clients as well. And it was great for both of us, because I was able to bring a wealth of knowledge of training racehorses internationally and in places all over the world, and training racehorses with one of the world's legendary trainers in my dad. So we complemented each other very well. Robbie's at the latter part of his career. I'm at the beginning of mine. So, our synergy is great. And it's just worked out really well for both of us. And I think that if we can continue on the path that we are with our success, there's no reason why we just can't carry on the way we're going,
And as you said, this wasn't a question I had planned, but I just think about it. As you said, Robbie is getting towards the latter end of his career, and you're, far from done. You're in the beginning of your career, obviously 3 years into this partnership. And you see so many, cases, your Mars and Eustaces and your, Waterhouses and Bots. Is it a case of, planning for the future in terms of getting another partner once Robbie does come to the end of his career, or is it a case of, Matt De Kock going out solo?
Yeah, it's a good question, Rowan. But obviously that would just depend on meeting the right person.
Yeah.
And when Robbie met me, I was obviously, in his eyes, the right person for his business. So it's not something that I would think I'll go out there and search for. I think it's kind of a bit of a fate thing. If you happen to have the right employee that steps up to the plate, or meet the right person along the way. But probably there may be a period of time where I do end up on my own between me and Robbie, and then on my own, and then maybe a young person steps into my life. Maybe my son, you never know, he's 1 year old. Maybe by the time he's all grown up, he might want to do it. So it's all open, and it's always a fluid thing.
Or even we could see the two great De Kocks teaming up for a partnership, which would
also
be
true.
Something insane and really great for, international racing. It'd be really amazing.
Yes.
So just also, what have been some major highlights of your career so far? Be it, as you said, you mentioned the horse before, we'll talk about other horses, that are meant a lot later on, but more so big wins or, monumental, memorable wins that have really helped your career and success along.
Yeah, so Igugu would stick out as a monumental horse. She won the Triple Crown in South Africa, and our two big races, the Mets and the Durban July, she won those as well. So she's probably on record for being the top 3 fillies to have ever been trained in South Africa. And then other big memories would obviously be our international success that we had on Dubai World Cup nights. We've won the Duty Free, the Shima Classic, the Derby. Even running second in the World Cup was an unbelievable experience. And then one of the successes that really sticks out for me as well is winning a Group 1 for my best friend. His name is Mike Shea. He was the best man at my wedding, and he asked me to buy him and his mate one racehorse. And the very first racehorse I bought them won a Group 1 for them. So that day was a very special day for us too.
What was the horse, and which Group 1 did it win?
So her name was Taking the Peace, which is a bit of a play on words. and she won the Fillies Classic, which is an 1800 Group 1, and it's the second leg of our 3-year-old Triple Crown in South Africa.
That's really big. No, I bet your best mate loved you more after that. That's
Yeah,
really
it was a big party that night.
Yeah. And so we've spoken about it a few times in this conversation. We're obviously going to talk about a lot more. We'll just reflect on your father had those stables in Dubai. You've got a lot of experience in Dubai. As you said, you were traveling in between the States, South Africa, and Dubai as well. He also holds, and you mentioned races before that you've won over there. He holds a record in in some of the carnival's key races, such as the Alcohol Sprint, with 2 wins in that Group 1, having prepared JJ the Jet, Plane, and Shay Shay. What is your experience overall in the UAE in terms of racing, and what do you think about how the profile is increasing through there and the rest of the Middle East?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic place to race. That time of the year, it really complements a lot of other countries and their programming and seasons, and it's a special place, Dubai, to have the opportunity to race and test yourself against the best in the world is something very special. And I personally love Dubai itself as a tourist destination. It's an awesome place to be in, and you get treated with a lot of respect, and you get treated like royalty when you're racing a horse in Dubai. So great place to be, and it continues to strive, Dubai. You know, everyone wants to take a horse there. You look at Animo this year, still going to be heading over there. So it's still recognized, the World Cup night, as a place to be, and to win a race on World Cup night is still respected in regards to being on your CV. So very good place.
And we'll just talk about some of the horses now. King Magnus, Halvorson, who have been some other great horses you've been proud to be able to train?
Yeah, King Magnus and Halvorson stand out obviously because they really been successful. He won the Cranbourne Cup for us, and Halvorson's won the Standish. So those two are right at the forefront. But we've had some nice success in the Derby last year. We ran 3rd with the Aberfeldy Boy, so he's a very exciting young horse to look forward to. Let's Be Frank Baby was placed in the Oaks, so she's also very exciting. We've got a really nice young group of horses that are from the first crop when we started buying together, myself and Robbie. So when we started to recruit new players for our team, they're coming through the ranks now. And beautiful young Schnitzel filly, Sirasana. She won her first start in December, 2-year-old. So she's quite exciting for the future as well.
And you now prepared Najam Sahal for the Alcor Sprint over the 1200 meters. 9 times race, 3 wins, 3 placings. Tell us a little bit about him, how he came to you guys, and the plans for his program going forward.
Well, he's probably one of the most well-traveled horses in the world because he was originally bought in Melbourne, Australia at the Premier Sale and shipped back to South Africa to race there for Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa Al Maktoum. And he won his first start and was second in a Group 2 in his second start, and then shipped to Dubai. And because of the quarantine protocols, he missed the first season there. And his second season, which was at the beginning of last year, 2022, he unfortunately did a hamstring. So that's when my dad said, this horse is good enough to race anywhere in the world. And Matt's down in Australia. Let's send him down there. So he got on the plane and came down, and he's won 2 good races here in Australia, second at Flemington during the carnival. And we always made plans to hopefully take him back to Dubai because his ownership base is Dubai based, and we'd love to race him there. Unfortunately, recent news is that we've now decided to geld him. So because all this time he's been a stallion and he's starting to get a bit full of himself. So we've made the decision to geld him. So he may give the Alcoa Sprints a miss this year because of the timing of the gelding. But it'll be our intention, if we don't go this year, it'll be our intention to program him towards that next year for sure.
That's cool. And what does his program look like in Australia? Even if the gelding process, does take place in the next, what are we thinking, few months?
Yeah, well, he has been gelded, so that's been done now.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's probably going to have about 3 to 4 weeks out now, just resting and letting that gelding take effect.
Yep.
And then we'll just start programming him some races in the city. He's got a nice handy rating, so he can still race on Saturdays here in the city and pick up a lot of prize money. He owes us a lot of prize money because he's done a lot of traveling for not a lot of racing.
Yeah, it sounds that way. And as you said, I get excited when trainers such as yourself, talk about, as you said a moment ago, if we give it a miss this year, it'll be a case of programming him for, Dubai and the Middle East in the future. Are there any other, handy types that you have around the yard that you would possibly think about racing either in Dubai, the rest of the Middle East, Saudi, Qatar, or even, taking back home to South Africa?
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of our horses our good horses at the moment are very young. They're 3-year-olds. So the 3-year-old program in Dubai is mainly focused on dirt at this stage. So our intention is to hopefully the young horses mature into good 4-year-olds, and then next year this time, if we have the same conversation, I should be hopefully saying to you, I've got these 3 or 4. Awesome. They're on the plane already. Yep. Going over. So that's the goal. I've got that magnetic feeling to go back to Dubai because I haven't been there for a while, and I want to go back with a runner and be successful.
How long has it been since you went to Dubai?
Sure, off the top of my head, it would probably be about 6 or 7 years since I was last there.
And
yeah,
having not only your own experience, but massive experience of your parents, are there any younger types that you look at? You mentioned a few, new 3-year-olds that you have. Are there any younger types you just look at and, you can see potential and you can say like in your head, hey, that could be a good one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are at least 4 or 5 horses in our yard that are like, in the morning you look at them and go, if we can be fit and healthy next year this time, I'm hopeful that this will be the one, or this will be the one to go over and compete during the carnival for sure.
And in terms of all the races in the world you could compete in, and obviously you have that experience competing in races on most continents. Is there a race, either at home or abroad, you would love to, in the back of your head, you've got it there and saying, hey, I would love to have the exact type to unleash on that race?
Yeah, I suppose being in Australia, you naturally gravitate towards races like the Cox Plate and the Melbourne Cup. I would love to have a horse good enough to race in those, and I don't have to travel far. At least it's an hour's drive to Moonee Valley and Flemington. So they're considered international races, but maybe for the locals, it's not such a big thing. But for people coming from overseas, they are in the top 10, those 2 races to compete in. So those 2 races would be 2 of my choices, and then maybe something like the Arc de Triomphe in France.
Yeah, and the son of 2 great horsemen, growing up with that bug, catching that bug, going through the initial stages of training to where you are now. What's a lesson or 2 you've learned along the way that's really held you in great stead, for success?
Yeah, time is free and nobody wants it. You got to be very patient in racing, and the wheel turns very slowly. But it's that good old saying, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You got to really just be patient. And I've learned that from my mom and dad. They've been in the industry for a long time, and they've taught me patience and to treat everybody with respect as well. I like to believe I'm a respectful person and give everybody their due.
And the final question, and I've only just caught this one because I was thinking about it earlier. You said you had a son. Would you love to have your son as the next generation De Kock, in our great sport?
Yeah, I would love it, but I'd probably prefer him to pursue the golf career that I never pursued. So I prefer to be his caddy for him at Augusta when he's playing in one of the majors there.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for the chat today, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
No worries. Thanks, Rowan.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.